I can see her lying back in her satin dress, in a room where you do what you don't confess.
Happy Homebrew Wednesday. I'm going to start off this happy Homebrew Wednesday with a bitch session. So the bitch session, kind of cool now, I can reveal this. Most of you guys already know. So I was the, whatever the entry was that ended in 44C, bitch session pale. Was lucky enough to make it to the US and Canada finals. Did not go any further. I think I ended up at like 7th place, 7th out of 10 or something like that. But very happy. It's better than last year. Last year I had a Imperial Stout, a smoked bourbon. What was it? Smoked bourbon, Virginia. I can't remember all the stuff I had in it. Milk stout, and I think I made like middle of the pack. Didn't make it through the first round last year. So this was an improvement. Very happy. It's good to show progress. Good to show improvement. The first SJ Pour Challenge was my first year of homebrewing. This is my second year of homebrewing, I guess. So I'll take that, making it to the U.S. and Canada finals. And the other benefit, well, there's an upside and there's a downside. First of all, the upside is I've got a whole keg of beer left now because I just did the rebrew just in case I made it through to the European finals. So I have plenty of football Sundays now to drink this. And it was pretty clear. I didn't filter this or anything. I'll talk a little bit about the beer in a minute. But yeah, I've got plenty of beer now to get me through the Redskins going to the playoffs. They're going to go to the playoffs. They're going to go to the playoffs, and they're going to kick the shit out of the Cowboys. It'll be third time the charm. So anyway, the downside is that I was really looking forward to, or really anxiously looking forward to having the opportunity to taste some of those European beers because I love English bitters. I love. So anyway, so that's the downside. So a little bit about the bitch session. So I don't know if you remember, but one of the first homebrew videos I put out after we found out what the category was for the SJ Pour challenge for 2016, I went off on a bitch session, which was I wasn't happy that they were going to do sessions because, in my opinion, all the sessions that I normally drink had drunk up. Is that right? Had drunk up to that point. Didn't have a whole lot of flavor. They were generally bland, kind of watery. Even you get like Founders All Day IPA, or that's probably one of the better ones. But I had never found a session that I really liked. I'm kind of an Imperial Double IPA, Imperial Irish Red, Imperial Pilsner, Imperial IPA. That's kind of my thing because it's probably because there's a lot of flavor in it. So I went off on a bitch session. So when I thought about it, I was like, man, that was really a bitch session. Hey, what a great name for a session beer, a bitch session. So that's what I named it. Now I'm having a post bitch session, and so a little bit about the beer. What I didn't tell everybody was I did put in there that I had put in some flaked oats. It's I think 2-row, some Crystal 10, some Bonlander Munich, and a little bit of Carapils, and I put in flaked oats. The batch that I did for this one, the rebrew, I only did one brew to get me through the first 2 rounds. So you probably noticed that some of the aroma had died off kind of towards the end there. I know some of you guys had commented on it. But I just did a rebrew just in case I had to make it through the next round. And I did a video about how I got my stuff from the grain bill. Did a fabulous job. But his daughter, SJ's daughter, is the one that picked the yeast for this. I said, hey, look, I was thinking of doing like a California ale, and I was like, I really want something that's going to have a kind of a unique flavor, something that's going to not just be a kind of, I don't want to say flavorless, but a kind of a neutral like you get with California ale. So I kind of gave her that a little bit of, thoughts that I had on the yeast over the phone. She picked the M10 Workhorse Mangrove Jacked, and I think it did a really cool job. A lot of you guys picked up pineapple, some mango, stone fruit kind of and some bready toastiness. That was probably from the Munich, I would think. But what I didn't tell you was the very first batch I brewed came out just nasty. I mean, I could taste kind of a very bland malt. The hops were a little too strong. But what really stuck out was the fact that I had good mouthfeel because I put the oats in it, but it didn't have any residual sweetness. There wasn't enough malt to kind of carry, and I had to top off with about 2 gallons of water just so I could get the kegging volume or the fermenting volume that I wanted. So I wasn't sure if it was the tap water I used or whatever, but what I did to cheat was I put some lactose in it, and I did not include that in the ingredients. I just forgot. I just forgot to mention that, hey, I put lactose. So I used lactose. I think that gave it a little bit of residual sweetness in the malt. And the really cool thing is, I mean, this is about the same clarity, starting off from the original Bitch Session Pale. It was 4.5% originally. This one, I brewed it. I went up from 153 to 158 on the mash, and I ended up at 4.2 on the second version. So I got a little bit more residual sweetness. So, and I noticed Nate from Under the Table Brewing had commented when he tasted my beer during the initial round in the Southeast Hub that it had a Band-Aid flavor to it, and he wasn't sure if that was temperature or some kind of flaw in the yeast. And I think it was temperature, because the first batch I brewed, I didn't use my fermentation climate controlled fermentation chamber because we had a lot of food in the refrigerator downstairs, so I just put it in the freezer, and I didn't want to thaw all my wife's frozen foods. She had a lot of steak and ribs and stuff in there, and I really wanted to eat that. So I put it in my regular ferment chamber, and it gets really hot down here in the basement because we don't have climate control down here yet. It's good for the winter. It stays it's like perfect 72 degrees all winter, but in the summer, or probably 68 degrees, but in the summer it gets up there. So it was probably fermenting at around 80 degrees at one point, and I think that might be where I got the kind of Band-Aid flavor. But even with the Band-Aid flavor, it made it through to the second round, and not many people, actually nobody, commented on any kind of off flavor in the second round. I thought they would. I wish I would have had this version that I brewed brewed it at a higher mash temperature, but then I fermented it at perfect 68 degrees. It was a nice slow fermentation, and I think the flavor came out even better. So, but anyway, hey, no harm, no foul. I've got a whole keg of Bitch Session now that I can just have a Bitch Session every time the Redskins make a bad play. So that's kind of all about my beer. Currently in the hot. Oh, first of all, congratulations to all of you guys that made it through to the second round. I know there's at least one beer that made it through that isn't a sour beer, so I'm kind of happy about that. I have a theory that for a session category, it's really tough for your general, I'll call them regular ales, so your pale ales, your IPAs, and even I would say stouts. I haven't looked at all of the codes yet to see who all made it through. I know one of the beers that made it through. I know that beer style. I think it was an IPA, and I'm very happy because my initial theory was it's only going to be sour beers that make it through. Because what I noticed, tasting the beers in the competition, the ones that carried the most flavor were the sour beers. Now, I don't particularly enjoy sour beers. I mean, I'd never, before this year's competition, I think I maybe had drank one sour beer and didn't enjoy it, but I had four different ones, I believe, between the two rounds this year, or maybe five actually. Yeah, five. And one of them was like super sour. One of them had beets in it. And they were all pretty interesting, so I liked them. The one I liked the most was the one that had a couple of different yeast strains in it, just because it was, it had the sourness, it was a really sour one. If it didn't have those individual yeast strains in it, I probably wouldn't have liked it because it was so sour. But those different yeast with the lacto and the Brett and the sac, those three different yeast combines was really interesting. And so I think it's finally kind of pulled me over to the dark side, and I might at some point try to look into doing a sour, but I don't know. I don't want to contaminate my system or anything like that. So I gotta work all that out. But I'm happy to see that at least one pale ale kind of style category beer made it in, because my theory was, you know, just at that low of an ABV, you couldn't carry enough flavor to kind of really have a wow factor. So sours kind of naturally had an advantage, just because, just by the nature of the beer, they have more flavor. So that's that. It's that time of year. You see, I got the Christmas tree. We're down in the Dean's Basement Pub. I got the Christmas tree here. I got my my parachuting Santa here. Love my paratrooper Santa. So it's that, you know, that time of year. It's all festive. It looks like freaking Pinocchio, or not Pinocchio. Looks like Rudolph puked all in our house. We got nutcrackers and garland and crap just flying all over the place here in the Dean's List. It's also exciting because got a note from Everdy Homebrewing today, and it looks like he's putting together another BrewTube calendar. So if you don't have a BrewTube calendar, get with him and figure out how to order one. I think it was the BrewTube, the online BrewTube group. I think I'm a member of that group on Facebook. But they put out a calendar this past year, and it's been fun. You know, they have your birthday month. They have your picture in there, and some people they do a spread on. Really fun. It's really cool for your brew area to have your BrewTubers calendar hanging up. So get with him and figure out how to order one this year if you don't have one, if you didn't have one last year. Funny story about that. So I went down there one morning and I look and I see what I thought was Sam, aka Thrifty Brewer, on, I think it was in October. And so I sent him a text and said, "Hey, happy birthday, Sammy." And then all these people get on his Facebook page, start saying, "Is there something I don't know about?" You know, and I was like, you know, and he goes, "Hey, dude, thanks, but you're a month early." I'm like, "What?" So I went back down to the calendar and looked, and it was someone that looked like Sammy. I don't guess I knew who that face was in October. And then I flipped to November. I think it was, I want to say, was it Thanksgiving? Was it Thanksgiving or was it Guy Fawkes Day, the 5th of November? I can't remember. I had to go back and look at my calendar, but his birthday wasn't until November. So I sent him back another happy birthday wish in November. So he thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, all right, update on that's enough shooting the shit. Update on brewing. I've still got my, I'll show you my lager real quick. I've got going, it's my Keller Beer Zoigl lager. Let's see if the light's on. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. Yeah, you should. It's percolating away. It's still bubbling. I've had it at yeah, anywhere from, oh, there, the light kicked on. Now you can see it. There, that's better. Should be able to see it. It's sitting right at 52 degrees. So I'm gonna let that go for another couple of days. It should be 50% attenuated. Then I'm gonna crank it up to, what is it, 65 for about a week. Let it ferment out the rest of the way. Then crank it down to 32 or 33 and let it go for about a week. And then we have my daughter's travel soccer team party that's going to be here, and hopefully I'll have that on tap. I've kind of got a problem right now where I've got 3 kegs that still have a considerable amount of beer in them. I've got my liquid bacon, or log cabin breakfast, whatever you want to call it. I've got the bitch session, and what's the other one? Yeah, whatever the other one is. But anyway, I think I'm going to get cut short here on the video. Heather's Outlander Ale, my wee heavy scotch recipe I got from SJ. So, hey, cheers everybody. Good luck again to all you guys moving forward. Have yourself a happy homebrew and a very happy homebrew Wednesday. Cheers.